Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the podcast where we really get into fascinating topics, trying to unearth those surprising bits of knowledge that genuinely, inform and intrigue. Today, we're looking at something pretty interesting happening in travel. It feels like it's really evolving, doesn't it? It's not just about grabbing a quick photo at some famous landmark anymore. The focus seems to have shifted quite dramatically towards experiences that are more unique, immersive, and, well, authentic, which makes you wonder who's actually leading this global shift? Who's really pushing the boundaries of what travel can be? Oh, but before we dive in properly, if you're looking for more incredible insights and deep dives like this one, please make sure to visit Mind Expansion Daily. Seriously, we've got so much great information waiting for you over there. And hey, if you're enjoying what you hear right now, could you do us a quick favor? Hit that like button and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily. It truly helps us reach more curious minds just like yours all around the world. And if you're feeling particularly generous, you can even buy us a coffee. The link to do that is right there in the description. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, so back to today's mission. This deep dive, we're going to unpack the really compelling story of how Filipinos are emerging as maybe unexpected trailblazers in this changing travel landscape. They're not just exploring, they seem to be redefining exploration itself, challenging norms, and carving out totally new paths. We're going to look at how Filipino travelers and entrepreneurs, too, are making a pretty significant impact. Everything from, breaking down old stereotypes to pioneering sustainable tourism and really fostering cultural exchange. So get ready for some insights and stories that honestly might just change how you think about global travel.
It really is an exciting time to look at the travel industry, isn't it? That transformation you mentioned is so clear. People want authenticity. They want genuine connection, much more than just superficial sightseeing. And what's really interesting here is seeing how Filipinos have stepped right into this space. They're becoming pioneers, really, in their own right. You see it with intrepid backpackers, super influential bloggers, innovative entrepreneurs. They're establishing a very noticeable presence.
Yeah, definitely noticeable. And when you think about the Philippines itself, the rich culture, that kind of inherent adventurous spirit, it seems like a natural fit in some ways. But how much of this is just sort of that natural spirit, and how much is a deliberate push, a conscious effort by Filipinos to carve out this niche?
It's a really good question. I mean, the adventurous spirit is definitely there, but there's also a deep cultural foundation at play. Many Filipinos really live the concept of bayanihan, that idea of collective community effort, helping each other out. And that spirit, it translates directly into how they approach travel. It helps them foster connections, engage with communities, often maybe more effectively than some top-down rules or regulations could. This cultural bedrock, I think, is a really significant differentiator. Their unique perspectives are just so impactful globally because they bring this mindful communal approach to exploring. And, recent industry trends show a clear demand for more responsible, culturally aware travel. Filipinos seem perfectly positioned to meet that demand, maybe even exceed it.
That makes a lot of sense, that cultural underpinning. Okay, let's dig into something that can be a bit tricky. The stereotypes. Filipinos in travel sometimes face these, well, pretty outdated ideas. What are some of these misconceptions? And maybe more importantly, why do they seem to stick around even when Filipino travelers are so clearly proving them wrong?
Right. Historically, the stereotypes often painted a picture of Filipino travelers being limited maybe to domestic trips or just budget travel, sometimes perceived as less adventurous than, say, Western travelers. A lot of these ideas probably stem from, well, a lack of representation in global media and sometimes, let's be honest, economic assumptions about the Philippines. The systemic barrier is often just inertia. Global narrative got established, often without enough input from diverse voices, and it just kind of lingers.
It is striking how those old views hang on, even with all this evidence to the contrary right in front of us. What do you think are the biggest, maybe psychological or systemic hurdles that let these misconceptions persist?
That's exactly the point. And Filipino travelers are actively dismantling these barriers. The impacts is quite remarkable, actually. You look at influencers like Heart Evangelista. 16.4 million Instagram followers, that's huge, or Will Dasovich, with nearly 1 million followers himself. They're showcasing destinations all over the world, mixing luxury, high adventure, deep cultural immersion. Their content reaches millions, directly challenging that old idea that Filipino travel is somehow limited.
That is impressive reach. Wow. And it's not just the huge names either, is it? It feels like the accessibility of platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, that's empowered so many Filipinos to just share their own stories directly. They can kind of bypass the traditional media gatekeepers altogether.
Absolutely. Take Aileen Adelaide. She famously left her corporate job, traveled to all 7 continents. Her blog, I Am Aileen, is now this huge source of inspiration with guides on digital nomad life, on genuinely sustainable travel. Or think about Gail Hilliton, the Pinay solo backpacker. She visited every single one of the 81 Philippine provinces, meticulously documented it. Her work directly empowers solo female travelers, and it really debunks those myths about safety, about what women can or can't do when exploring alone.
It's so powerful. These voices aren't just sharing holiday snaps, they're actively rewriting the narrative. They're showing Filipino travelers as bold, resourceful, globally influential. It feels like it's fundamentally about reclaiming their stories in an industry that was for a long time dominated by, Western perspectives. Okay, so beyond just breaking stereotypes, there seems to be this deeper layer, a real commitment to sustainability in Filipino travel. How are they championing this kind of eco-conscious exploration? Is it really resonating globally?
Well, absolutely. And this commitment, it fits perfectly with where the global trend is heading anyway. Demand for eco-conscious travel is definitely on the rise, but Filipinos seem to be genuinely at the forefront here. There was a 2025 Agoda survey, for instance, that found, get this, 86% of Filipino travelers prioritize sustainability. That's way higher than the Asian average, which was around 68%. So for them, it's clearly not just a fad. It seems to reflect a deeply held value.
Wow, 86%. That statistic really jumps out. So what does that look like on the ground? How are travelers and entrepreneurs actually weaving sustainability into their trips and what they offer?
You see it in lots of ways. Bloggers like Catherine Cortez from Tara Let's Anywhere, she provides these really comprehensive guides on finding eco-friendly places to stay and things to do across the Philippines, beachfront eco-resorts, authentic community-based tourism experience, that kind of thing. And a lot of the sustainable initiatives in the Philippines involve eco-lodges, especially in places like Palawan, where the money they make goes directly back into local conservation work.
That's a very direct, measurable impact. And I guess it extends to how people choose what they do on their trips, too.
Precisely. Bloggers like Marga Tuzon, for example, actively encourage travelers to pick sustainable options. Maybe mangrove tours instead of something else, or low-impact hiking trails. She even points out practical ways to do it, like using platforms. Klook is one she mentioned, an online travel agency to find and book tours that specifically promote sustainable practices. And these efforts, they have this kind of dual impact. They help preserve the Philippines' incredible biodiversity. I mean, it's home to over 52,000 species, which is amazing, and they genuinely empower local communities. This lines up perfectly with the Department of Tourism's own goals, their 2022 recovery plan focusing on a socially responsible industry. By championing this conscious travel, Filipinos are really setting a new global standard, finding that balance between adventure and looking after the planet.
Okay, so we've talked about breaking stereotypes, sustainability. How does this deep connection to culture play out in fostering cultural exchange? How do Filipino travelers seem to excel at creating these really immersive cross-cultural experiences?
Yeah, this is where that inherent Filipino warmth and hospitality really shines through, I think. They don't just, visit places. They seem to dive deep into local traditions, local histories. Marky Ramon Go, his blog Nomadic Experiences, is a great example. He explores festivals, indigenous practices, these lesser-known spots, not just in the Philippines, but all across Asia, even South America.
Can you give us a specific example of that kind of immersion he facilitates?
Sure, he might introduce travelers to really unique rituals, like the traditional Kalinga tattoo methods, or he'll take groups into Mindanao's vibrant weaving communities. It fosters this kind of mutual understanding that goes way beyond just a quick, superficial interaction. And it's not just individual bloggers. You have initiatives like We Are Soul Sisters, which creates programs specifically empowering Filipino travelers to connect deeply with communities, sharing stories of women's resilience and cultural pride.
That sounds incredibly enriching. And this cultural bridging, it works both ways, right? It's not just about Filipinos exploring other cultures, but also about them bringing their own culture out into the world.
It's exactly right. Think about pilot Cheska Carandon. She's an LGBTQ plus airline pilot, and she shares her global adventures through vlogging. She really highlights how Filipinos bring their warmth, their adaptability, that open spirit wherever they go. It actively breaks down cultural barriers in international settings. And this focus on connection, it lines up perfectly with another key statistic. A survey showed 75% of Filipinos value meaningful community connections when they travel. They prioritize that deep immersion over just, skimming the surface. So by sharing these kinds of experiences, Filipino travelers are genuinely bridging cultural gaps, making global exploration feel more inclusive and, frankly, more enriching for everyone.
It's becoming clear this isn't just about individuals exploring, is it? It's also about Filipino entrepreneurs actively redefining unconventional travel through really innovative businesses. How are they crafting these unique adventures, and what kind of impact are they having?
Yeah, they're building whole enterprises that offer these bespoke experiences, everything from adventure tours to wellness retreats. And crucially, they're doing it in ways that boost local economies. A fantastic example is Le Conf. It was founded by Aileen Adelaide, who we mentioned earlier. Her company curates these artisanal travel experiences, connecting tourists directly with Filipino craftspeople. It's just a brilliant way to support local talent and offer a truly authentic cultural interaction.
And these businesses seem pretty diverse in what they offer, too.
Oh, absolutely. You also have ventures like Happy and Busy Travels. That's run by a couple, Katrina Tiong and Dave Ramula. They specialize in curated foodie trips and resort reviews, aiming specifically at couples looking for something unique. And these contributions are getting noticed. The Go Negocio Tourism Summit in 2023, for example, specifically recognized many of these entrepreneurs and vloggers for how they're promoting Philippine tourism through these really unique offerings, cultural festivals, eco tours, you name it.
So these aren't just like passion projects, they're actually significant economic drivers.
Precisely. Tourism makes up about 8.6% of the Philippines' GDP, so these innovative businesses are directly feeding into that. And it's really impressive is how many of them integrate sustainable practices right into their core business model. Things like offering zero-waste tours or promoting community-based homestays. They're not just creating economic opportunities, they're setting a new, more responsible model for global tourism innovation by really focusing on authenticity and meaningful experiences.
These trends really come alive when you hear the personal stories behind them, don't they? Can you share some of those inspiring success stories, maybe blogs that grew into something huge or even led to published books?
Absolutely. One really inspiring story is Gail Hilliton. Her blog, The Pinay Solo Backpacker, started as a personal passion project but grew into this massive global platform. After she meticulously documented her journey across all 81 Philippine provinces, which is just incredible in itself, she actually landed a book deal. She published a guidebook that now inspires tons of budget-conscious and solo travelers.
Wow, from blog to book deal, that's quite something. And what about her impact beyond the book itself?
Well, her work, which is amplified by her, 110,000 plus Instagram followers, has empowered countless women to travel independently. It directly challenges those gender stereotypes we talked about in adventure travel. And similarly, you have Anton Diaz's Our Awesome Planet. That started as just a family blog, but it evolved into one of the leading resources for food and travel in the region, with a huge following across different platforms. What's really fascinating here, I think, is how these individuals have leveraged digital platforms to share truly authentic stories, turning their personal passions into these incredibly influential careers that are inspiring audiences all over the world.
It's clear there's huge success happening, but I imagine no journey like this is completely smooth. What sort of challenges do Filipino travelers still face, and what does the road ahead look like for them?
Yeah, despite all this groundbreaking success, Filipino travelers definitely still encounter significant hurdles. Visa restrictions, for one, are a major issue. The Philippine passport currently ranks about 73rd globally, which limits visa-free access to only around 67 countries. That's a real constraint.
Yeah.
And then you still have financial barriers and unfortunately some systemic biases within the wider global travel industry that persist.
Right, those are very real, tangible limitations that can seriously impact someone's ability just to get out there and explore. But are there new opportunities popping up that might help counteract some of these challenges?
Yes, definitely. The whole rise of digital nomadism, for instance, and just the sheer power of social media are offering new ways to navigate some of these difficulties. We see influencers like Will Dasovich using their platforms not just to share their stories, but also to creatively fund their journeys, which helps bypass some of those traditional financial hurdles. Looking ahead, the future growth of this whole movement will likely depend heavily on continued advocacy, pushing for more inclusivity, and also on the implementation of policies that genuinely support sustainable tourism. Like the initiatives the Philippine Department of Tourism is championing. It's really about creating an environment where they can continue to lead and innovate.
It really is quite something to see how Filipinos are so boldly reshaping unconventional travel. Their approach feels so authentic, sustainable, and just culturally rich. From the influencers smashing stereotypes to the entrepreneurs crafting these unique adventures, it feels like they're not just exploring the world, they're genuinely enriching global tourism with their unique perspectives and that innovative spirit.
Yeah, if you step back and look at the bigger picture, Filipino travelers are definitely doing more than just exploring. They are actively enhancing global tourism. They're setting a new kind of benchmark for what meaningful exploration looks like. They're focused on going off the beaten path, on eco-conscious practices, and that deep cultural exchange really sets them apart as well as true pioneers.
Which brings us to a question for you, our listener. Thinking about all this, in a world that seems to be searching more and more for genuine connection and responsible travel, how might this Filipino approach inspire your next adventure? Or maybe even just how you think about global exploration in general? We would genuinely love to hear what you think. If you agree or maybe disagree with our summary of this deep dive, please drop a comment below and let us know. Your feedback really does help us make these deep dives even better for you. Oh, and while you're down there commenting, maybe tell us, where are you listening from? We're kind of on a mission here to connect with curious minds all over the world, and knowing your location helps us see our global reach. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep expanding your mind.